With local author and president of the Williamston Museum, Mitch Lutzke, to talk about his recently published book, Stories from Williamston's Past, Volume 2. So, Mitch, tell us, what is this book all about?
It tells a lot about how Williamston became Williamston what it is now. A couple of things in there. We had two brick factories in the 1920s, 30s into World War I that made building bricks. So if you've ever been to Jennison Fieldhouse at MSU or the Fairchild Theater, those came from Williamston. The old Stockbridge High School on Elizabeth Street came from the Williamston brick factory. The other one was called Michigan Clay Products. So I talk about that and how it went out of business. We're the Hornets at the high school, so I researched how we probably got named the Hornets, why maybe we're green and white, and the young lady who wrote the fight song in 1937-38 school year. She was a senior in high school. I talk about a famous bird watcher from the Weberville, Bell Oak area, Dr. Harmon Atkins, from the 1840s to the 1880s. I have Forest Acres in here, MSU Golf Course, dormitory. He was born in the little village of Meridian, which is between Okemos and Williamston. It really didn't take off. And then he moved to Williamston when he was in elementary school and lived there. And he's given his trust with he and his wife $12 million to MSU over the years, including the marching band facility and a recent donation to the museum. So he's from Williamston. So I talk about interesting people, places, events. We had this really fancy girls orchestra band before World War I, so I tracked down the 20 girls' names and try to talk about their families and the organizers that I knew. So just kind of different snippets of things. And you don't have to read chapters you don't like. It's not like a textbook where you got to read from one. So you're like, yeah, I don't want that one. 1966, Williamston had a horse entered in the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
So if you're a sports person, you'll read that. If you're into, maybe my grandpa worked at the brick family, you'll read this. So it's not meant to go from front to back, because a lot of people don't want to learn history that way.
Yeah.
They just want to learn kind of what they think is interesting.
Totally. So you got a wide variety of things packed into the book. You can pick and choose. Perfect. That's the way I like to read about history.
There you
That's
go.
for sure.
There you go.
But, you know, what are your biggest takeaways that you want the reader to get from the book?
Well, I think, and I would say this in my class, every person is unique, regardless of gender, sex, race, socioeconomic background. Every community is unique. You all have great stories in your family, whether you know them or not. Your community all has really cool stories. You just need to dig through talking to old people, reading old newspapers, video clips, just kind of, you know, putting your ear to the ground. And then you can cultivate that history for your town and pass it on, something you can nourish and cherish. And this is kind of who we are and what we are. So that's kind of why I do this kind of stuff I do. Absolutely.
So I imagine it was very fun to do this, but tell me, what was the most challenging part of writing your second book?
My second book, because some of the topics were newer, I would think I was done, and then I would stumble upon something. Like the museum, I didn't know this, but I was looking for something on Forest Acres. We have his dad's, some of his business records. Well, next to the business records in this locked cabinet were the bank records from Williamston from like 1927 to 1941. Well, we used to have two banks. Well, it had people who like defaulted on loans in there, who was on the board. Well, a lot of the brick factories problems came out of not being able to repay loans. So I had written this brick factory chapters for both of them, thought I had it done. And then I found this, and it changed the whole outcome of the dates and what happened and how much trouble they were in financially at the time. So one thing about history, they tell history people, you eventually have to stop your research and you have to write. And we're always waiting for that one last picture, that one last quote. So sometimes you just got to say, I'm done, and move on. So there you go.
Absolutely. Well, I could pick your brain all day about this stuff, but I kind of don't have to because it's written right here. So where can people find this lovely book?
They're on Amazon. They're at Schuler's Books in the Meridian Mall. I also think they're in Grand Rapids at Schuler Books, and they're at two places in Williamston, Barrett's Brooks in Williamston, and the Studio Shop in Williamston as well.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure's been mine, Claudia.
It was a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to reading your book.
Thank you.